In the boundless sea of $99 earphones, we have a gem once in a while. Today we are going to take a look at FiiO FW3. This is a true wireless EM with one of those charging cases, a fully plastic design, yet somehow it manages to be an interesting offer for your ears and for your heart. Usually when we have an entry-level EM, I just don't do a video review anymore because usually I don't have enough content to talk about. But the FW3 managed to impress me enough for me to explore them. So those are true wireless EMs. If the term isn't familiar, well, they are two units not connected by a wire but connected by Bluetooth signal. They each receive a part of the Bluetooth signal, the left and the right respectively. And what is interesting about a true wireless design is that each one of them has both a DAC and an amp inside. It's like two mini players here. And they stay synced well enough so that you won't notice any kind of left-right incoherency, so that they play music for you naturally. Now, FW3 has one dynamic driver inside. It is a dynamic driver, 10 millimeters in size, so we're expecting a strong bass, but they also have a somewhat high impedance of 32 ohms, which is not unseen but rare for true wireless EMs, and a CPL of 106 decibels per milliwatt. What this means is that they will be somewhat hard to drive, so the amp inside will have to do a bit more work than for other EMs. The FiiO FW3 has a pretty normal design. They are rounded, they have a somewhat long bore which is thin in design, but the EMs are quite large yet quite light. The construction is fully made of plastic, which I think is quite good because plastic can be very light. They still look very good. They offer you a good amount of passive noise isolation, between 20 and 25 decibels of passive noise isolation, not even active, there is no NC here, but they really isolate you well. With some music playing, you won't hear yourself typing on a keyboard or your air conditioner running in the room. You could even sing and not hear your own voice, which I think is a pretty fun experience with the FW3. While those aren't advertised for gym and they don't have any kind of gym specific designs, they work well for gym because they sit tightly in my ear, they just sit snugly right there, and I have no trouble wearing them while doing physical activities. The charging case is also made of plastic, and I managed to keep this one scratch free somehow. It offers just 2 charge cycles for the FW3, but you typically don't have to deplete them entirely. So basically the EMs have around 7 hours of battery life, and the case can provide them with another 14 hours of battery life, which is quite good. With 21 hours of battery life, you should be able to use those for up to a week without having to recharge them. It takes just 1.5 hours to recharge the case, which then recharges the EMs. The EMs should also be recharged in around 2 hours inside of the case if you manage to deplete them entirely. But once again, 7 hours of life, you are unlikely to deplete them entirely. They do have a Type-C connector, so you don't have to purchase any kind of micro USB cable. I don't know, we're in 2023. I don't even know why anyone would still include a micro USB connector. So good job to the guys at FiiO. They have a Type-C connector. Very modern, very elegant, and very good. The EMs connect to my smartphone flawlessly. I had no signal dropouts, even though I did play music through 2 walls. So there were 2 walls between the smartphone and the EMs, and I was doing physical activities around the house. I was cleaning my house, and yet I had 0 signal dropouts, which is quite excellent. That being said, the smartphone that I'm using, the Samsung S23 Ultra, doesn't have LHDC, so I was not using the highest data rate. I was using aptX adaptive, yet the sound was quite good still. So you don't have to have a smartphone with the latest LHDC codec to get a good sound. You just need to have a good smartphone. This is something I haven't really mentioned in my Bluetooth review, but not all smartphones will sound the same. This is because not all smartphones have the same quality for the Bluetooth antenna, which means that some smartphones will sound a bit worse. Some of them will force the Bluetooth codec to go into a lower bitrate mode, and then it doesn't even matter what Bluetooth codec you're using anymore. Even if you are using aptX or LDAC, it won't matter. You have to stick to a higher bitrate for it to sound good, which means a stronger antenna, which typically means a better smartphone. Even so, the 2 flagships in the world, the Samsung S23 Ultra and iPhone 14 Pro Max, don't support exotic Bluetooth codecs. So if you are looking for a really good Bluetooth experience, don't get yourself a flagship. You need a mid-ranger. I don't even know why is that. iPhone only supports AAC, which will sound much worse than the aptX and LDAC supported by Samsung, but Samsung S23 Ultra doesn't support any exotic codec like LHDC. With that out of the way, we can focus on the FW3 FW3. Comfortable to wear? Check. Mini size? Check. Pretty cool design? Check. FiiO? Check. Usually when we have a $99 EM, we have a somewhat boomy, somewhat slow bass, somewhat bloated sound and not a very good detail. With FW3, we have pretty much the classic V-shaped signature for an entry-level EM. While this doesn't sound so appealing on paper, they really did this signature well. So the mid-range follows the Harman curve quite well, which means that the mid-range is very detailed and very natural at the same time. You don't notice any kind of peak, any kind of dip, everything just sounds normal in the mid-range. But then we have a very strong bass, which has a very nice amount of impact, very bassy, powerful, punchy presentation. And we have a sharp treble, which extends well up to about 8 kHz, after which it dips, after which it climbs again at around 10 to 11 kHz, after which it dips again at about 13 to 14 kHz. You won't notice any of those incoherencies. What you will notice is a very sharp, very clean, airy treble that doesn't have a very fatiguing presentation, it doesn't have a metallic noise or a lot of grain. Instead, you'll hear a clean, detailed, crisp treble that will be enjoyable for any time to come. I really like this fact with the FiiO FW3. The treble isn't fatiguing, yet it is bright. The bass isn't bloated, but it is a lot, it is powerful, and it is forward. And the mid-range isn't recessed, yet it doesn't feel forward either. Forward voices will always sound a bit forward, while background voices will be pushed forward too, so there will be less depth to the sound and more width. Everything just expands well laterally. It has good instrument separation, and one thing that I noticed with it is that you always understand the lyrics in music. You really understand what the music is talking about, and that is really nice. Even with rock and metal, you will understand even screamed voices and such. They will make sense with the FiiO FW3. If you'll be asking me if those are ideal true wireless EMs, I will say yes, without a second thought. If you're asking me if they have active noise cancelling, no they don't. If you ask me if they have any kind of special technology, yes, they have LHDC, but that is it. No LDAC, no other special tech, yet they don't really need it. All of that special tech doesn't lead to a better sound necessarily. Some earphones come with a lot of tech, with a lot of perfection, flagship grade stuff, and yet the final experience, the final sound isn't ideal. With FiiO FW3, the company focused on the most important part of this hobby, which is the sound, and they have such a beautiful sound, such a resolute sound, and for $99 it feels like using a good pair of Chi-Fi EMs at around $100 with a good source. And they do sound like that. They have a Asahi Kasei DAC inside, they have a good amp inside, and they have a good Bluetooth chip inside. While you could argue that no product is ever perfect, for $100 FiiO FW3 is darn good. There isn't a lot that you can purchase around this money that has this kind of sound. They won't be quite at the same level as FiiO FD5, which will be more dynamic and more punchy, but FiiO FD5 is pricier than the FW3, and those ones are just more comfortable to use. No cables, no worries. You don't have to worry about losing them. You don't have to worry about anything with the FW3. Just look at this. I can have both of them in the palm of my hand, and they aren't heavy either. All in all, if you need a true wireless EM, you've come to the right place. You've come to the right video, and I hope that this video has been helpful to you. Please do take into account this. When purchasing a true wireless EM, you need those three things: excellent comfort, excellent sound, and a good reliable signal. This is it. For a Bluetooth earphone, this is it. And FiiO FW3 marks all of them. They have a really good sound, a really good comfort, and a stable connection, which means that they will be fun to use. Perfect? Never. Nothing isn't ever perfect. Darn good? Yes, $100, of course. Will you purchase them? That's up to you. What I hope that you will do is like this video, press subscribe, and have a lot of fun out there. Hope to see you soon. Bye.